listen.
Of the National Action Network under the leadership of Minister Tyrone Richardson. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be back with none other than the president and founder of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Good morning, everyone. Again, good morning, everyone. I see all of you out there, and I know that you are in this contest. All of you are getting people to come out to the National Action Network every Saturday and also to join. Now, I'm going to tell you this. If the person gets the most people to join the National Action Network up to September, the last day of September, you will receive a $200 voucher for Sylvia's Restaurant. But they have to register and they have to pay for their membership. And if you do not come to the table and let us know the names of the people with their membership, you will not win. I just want to repeat that because I have people coming up to me and say, well, I got people coming every week. We do not know that. So in order for us to know that you have these people coming and they have joined, you have to come to us and let us know and sign your name on the registration form. Again, that will be a $200 voucher for Sylvia Restaurant for someone who bring in the most members to the National Action Network, and they're starting to participate in all programs by saying we have different committees here and they can join. Also, I'd like to say congratulations to our own Reverend Richardson, who will be celebrating his gospel birthday this evening. I look forward to this. On this particular day, he will be honored by our own city councilwoman who sent a citation here for this big celebration. Also, I'd like to say on the 25th of August will be the National Action Network picnic. As all of you know, every year it gets better and better and better. So if you would like to come, please check with Marisol over there, the house manager, or see one of the members of the National Action Network to get involved. Again, August the 25th is our National Action Network picnic. Also, I'd like to thank personally the Health Committee and other people that joined us on Wednesday night who was at the repast for the Lord Morgan's family. They did a tremendous job. I'd like to thank all the people who donated and gave their time. So again, at the House of Justice, we continue to be on the move. At the House of Justice, we do care, and I expect for all of you to do everything I just told you. Go out there, get people to come and join the National Action Network, and stay in the move. Thank you.
Thank you. Teresa Freeman, the president of the New York City chapter of the National Action Network. I'm going to bring really quickly my sister, Aisha Sekou, who is the president and founder of Street Corner Resources. And as we talk about the Occupy the Corners initiative that National Action Network is introducing, I want to just have her to come up and talk about what's going on the ground as it relates to the anti-violence struggle.
Peace and blessings. I want to thank Reverend Sharpton for having this space to be in on a Saturday morning. I don't often get a chance to make it here, so I came out in my Saturday morning clothes and just said I'm coming. But I just want to say that, one, occupying the corners is excellent. We've been talking a lot about how the community needs to engage our young people. I've been talking about it longer than I'd like to think about. So I think it's a wonderful thing. We've been doing some work on the corners, but it is not enough. Our kids are still pulling triggers. I was talking with Reverend Al Taylor yesterday, and they've been making some efforts on the corners as well. We joined forces, but it is still not enough. Operation Snug is out in the street on corners. It is still not enough. It will take our entire community to come out and engage our young people. So we're glad that Reverend Sharpton saw fit to make this a movement, not just even in Harlem, across the city, that people engage our young people. So I just want to encourage everybody to come out, and actually don't come out by yourself. What I tell people is call 10 other people or 20 other people, because if you call 20, at least you'll show up with 5. And get people to commit. Tell them they don't have to stay the whole time, because we know people get busy. That's an excuse to not come. Tell them to come for whatever time they can and be present, because that's what we need. We need to be present for our young people. Peace and blessings. My name is Aisha Sekou. Much love.
Thank you so much. How long do we have? A minute 15. Well, let me just tell you that Aisha Sekou does not only talk, but she certainly does what she says she's doing. She's really on the ground. And I always tell the story that when we were growing up in the youth move with Brother Prophet and others, many of you remember when we had our youth move, Victoria's Age and others back in the days, she used to let us have the parties at her house. And she was watching us. We had little basement parties, right? But she was watching us, and my mom and dad would always be okay with me going to a party, a safe party, at the residence of Aisha Sekou. So thank you very much. A moment of silence. We're back, brothers and sisters. We're here. We're live in the village of Harlem for the National Action Network Saturday morning action broadcast, live on WLIB 1190 AM. You still have time to join us here at the House of Justice Auditorium, located at 106 West 145th Street on the corner of Lenox Avenue in the village of Harlem. Now I want you to stand on your feet as I bring to you the man who is not afraid to speak up for the voiceless and stand firm on his beliefs. He is the soul preacher, the liberation seeker, and is a true teacher, the president and founder of the National Action Network, my leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
No justice, no justice, no justice. What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? 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 Hug the person next to you and tell them you love them. 5 decades ago, there was an Olympics in Germany. Adolf Hitler had talked about the master race. He talked about superior race, how they were superior and supreme over others. But on that day, yesterday was the anniversary, black man named Jesse Owens ran and beat the master race right in Adolf Hitler's face. But it didn't stop there, because all 5 decades later, young girl from Virginia Beach named Gabby Douglas, mama had the pawn jury to get her coach. She believed in herself. People laughed at her hairstyle. People said she couldn't do nothing. But she got out on that mat, and just like Jesse Owens, she brought in the victory and won the gold. And America had to stop while this little African-American girl stood up and they played the Star-Spangled Banner, because she brought it in for a country that sometimes didn't bring in for her. If you keep on running, if you keep on exercising, if you believe in yourself, your change is going to change. Justice, we emphasize a lot of our young people, but we also have people that have been around a long time. We have this morning one of our members, Catherine Nichols, is here, who was a World War I baby. Father was part of the 369th Armory in Harlem. Catherine is here. She's 91 years old. Catherine's father in the 369th, the World War I baby, but she lived to see a black commander-in-chief in the White House. If you keep on fighting, you never know where it's going, but if you stand for what's right, at the end, right will overpower might. Don't give up, don't bow in, your change will come. Your change will come. Your change. National Action Network Change Choir. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be here another Saturday morning. For you that are here at the House of Justice, you that are listening live on WLIB 1190 AM in New York, all you that are watching live stream at our chapters around the country at www.nationalactionnetwork.net. We're happy to be with you another Saturday morning where the action is. And you know, I was listening as Kazembe Bats was talking about the hip hop parade next week, and I was thinking this is the 21st year. Every Saturday morning for 21 years, we've had rallies live on the radio for 21 straight years. A lot of folk I could think of that they gonna do this and do that, but it's those that sustain a movement that makes change. A lot of folk talk a lot again, and then you never hear from them again. I've been a lot of issues, and you get these do-it-yourself brothers and sisters just jump up. We ain't gonna take it no more. We never see them again. And we end up taking a lot more. But the Bible and other scriptures, but those of us believe in the Bible say the race isn't given to the swift, nor to the strong, but those that can endure. You ought to give yourselves a hand as an organization. Then we enjoyed our little brother, where's Mentor? Stand up. Wasn't he good this morning? Talking about James Baldwin. Give him a hand. All right, we're proud of him and his father. I love to see how his father pushes him. That's what black men ought to be doing with their sons. Let me say a couple of announcements, and I'm going to get into our anti-violence stuff tomorrow morning on Our Power, on our sister station WBLS at 9 o'clock is our national show, but it's heard here in Our Power. I'm going to have it all on our anti-violence initiative here in New York, and I think I'm going to have Tamika Mowry and Erica Ford, who's listening. She didn't know she's on in the morning, but she know now. And because I want people around the country to hear what we are doing. We're also glad Aisha Saku is with us, and she works in season and out of season on the streets. And I didn't know she used to throw the blue light parties for Tamika and them, but we'll talk about that another day. Glad to see one of the sons of our movement, Reverend Kirsten Foy, who has worked hard on this. Kirsten had on his clergyman's collar at the funeral the other night, and I didn't know. I was reading in the car, and Eddie, who drives me, was driving by, and I said, let's go, let's go. He says, I must stop, the father's there. The father. I said, what father? That's Kirsten. I guess Kirsten said, our change will come. I want to thank all of you that came out and packed the church and then the repast here at the House of Justice to stand with the family of 4-year-old Lloyd Morgan. And we cannot let that issue die here. And I'm going to talk about that. I also sadly announce the passing of a former board member of Nash Action Network and pastor of Child's Memorial Church of God in Christ, Bishop Norman Quick, passed this week. And we certainly keep the Quick family in our prayers. I talked to his wife and son, and of course this week many of us went to the funeral services of Charles Matthews, one of our founding members, and many of us were there and spoke at the funeral. Last night I was at Washington Temple with Marsha's funeral. Been a lot of funerals, and it makes you take life serious, because anytime you start going to more funerals than christenings, it's telling you something. And I tell Dominique and Ashley, to go to so many funerals, I was going to lay down. Then I said, no, I better not lay down. Maybe I need to stay up. That might be the wrong position, Reverend. Glad Reverend Mason got a little hoop in the end of his thing. Give Reverend Mason from my Phi Beta Sigma brother. But we want to keep Bishop Quick in prayer, his family. And I want to emphasize also next 2 Saturdays from now, where we're all going to Samotap, all of us, to honor J.D. Livingston. I'm going to be there. Imhotep Gary Bird is going to be the speaker. But all of us, I want all of National Action Network, all of you in Radio Land, even if you're not, to be there for a brother who has stood by this organization, who stood by Imhotep, who stood by all of us. I want us to overflow Samotap, and we need to really give a lot of respect to Queen Betty Dobson and Dr. James McIntosh for calling the community together to honor J.D. Livingston at Samotap. That's, I believe it's 2 Saturdays from now. August 18th at Samotap in Queens at 2 o'clock, which means you can come to the rally, get your sandwich, and head on out to Queens with us. I don't eat sandwiches, so I'll be there early. Tomorrow morning on Centric is a town hall meeting we want to announce at 10 o'clock BET Centric that we're doing. Now, I'm going to Miami in the morning. I'm preaching the Bishop Victor Curry, who pastors New Birth Baptist Church, largest black congregation in Southern Florida. And Congresswoman Frederica Wilson will be announcing the opening of National Action Network Miami-Dade chapter. And we're glad Bishop Curry is going to head the chapter. We're going to cut the ribbon at the office. Then I'm coming back for our convocation that'll be here on Monday, the Lloyd Morgan convocation on anti-violence, and then going back to Miami for the all-day session on voter ID. And it is a critical issue that we're dealing with. I was in Orlando yesterday, day before yesterday and yesterday morning, and then spoke in Washington for A. Philip Randolph Institute. When you look at these voter ID laws, 5 million people, 5 million, can be disenfranchised. It will decide some of the swing states' elections. Yet there is no fraud. There's a case in Pennsylvania now where they brought suit. Some of you that watched me on Politics Nation saw the old lady that I had on. She's the lead plaintiff in the suit, saying she's voted a half a century and can't vote. When they put the Secretary of State of Pennsylvania on the stand during the trial, she didn't even know what the law says. She defending a law she can't even explain. The Republicans that made it law in Pennsylvania admit there are no cases of fraud, voter fraud, and they don't expect any. So we are really, as we battle this violence, we must battle this voter ID, this disenfranchising of people, this anti-voter rights legislation. And I want y'all to remain diligent on that. There's a lot happening around the country. We've got to deal with that. I'm also looking into this case of Chavis Carter, young man in Arkansas that was stopped by police last Saturday. He and 2 others, he was handcuffed. They found what they say in the police report, $10 worth of drugs, marijuana, I believe. They handcuffed him, searched him, handcuffed him, put him in the police car, and then they say he, with his hands behind him back, handcuffed, shot himself and killed himself. So I'm looking into this case and we'll keep you abreast. I don't know the facts, but I know that don't sound right. Even the police chief says it is bizarre and said that it is beyond logic. So we're going to be looking into that. On Monday morning, we've invited leaders and what I call influencers, those that have influence, to a convocation here at the House of Justice around violence. This is not just those that are leaders in the customary or traditional sense, but we're talking about, we've invited, of course, all the elected officials, leading ministers, leading civic leaders, those in the trenches that have worked on this, like Sister Sekou, as well as some radio and television personalities, and people that can influence. Out of this conference, out of this convocation, we're going to come out with our Occupy Our Corners campaign. We want to select where we're going to do it, the times that we're going to do it, and who's going to man it. If one thing, one reason why we still here 21 years later, if we do something, we're going to do it big. And we're going to do it right. A lot of folks be talking about, we going to do so-and-so and do nothing. I'm going to close the town, sure, with 50 people and an excuse. If we come out by the thousands and we make it clear what we're doing. So if we talk about occupying the corners, I'm talking about really doing something. And I need all hands on deck. Now, I said at the funeral that we need to put aside our differences. We need to put aside the posturing and positioning and the politics. This is about saving our children. When we start burying 4-year-old babies, when I looked at that little casket, if that don't touch you, a 4-year-old baby in the park at a memorial game for a young lady who was stabbed, and he gets killed by a stray bullet, if that don't make you stop and get past your ego or get past who you like or who you don't like or who did this or who did that, nothing will. I don't care who did what. I don't care what we fighting about. We need to all put it on pause and sit down and figure out how we're going to bring down the violence and gunplay in our community. So we call on everybody. I'm glad. I want to hear from, we have Assemblyman Jeffries here who just won the primary in Brooklyn. He's been a member of N.A.N. since he was a kid. In fact, in the video on N.A.N., he was one of those that did the video about why he's a part of our network, and he's on his way to Washington. But I want him to address the violence issue as Assemblyman Hakeem Jeffries.
No justice? No peace. No justice? No peace. It's always an honor and a privilege whenever I have the opportunity to, of course, be here at the Saturday morning action rally. I'm proud of my N.A.N. Membership, my relationship with the Reverend Al Sharpton. We're certainly thankful for all of the tremendous leadership that Reverend Sharpton has provided to us over the years. We know that he started off in tracksuits. And now we see him on MSNBC in business suits. But even though the outfit has changed over the years, his commitment to justice has remained the same. And whether it's closing down crack houses or advancing a national or international civil rights agenda, Reverend Sharpton has always been there when we need him. And so we're thankful for him. I'm personally thankful for his encouragement and his support, his advice, for N.A.N.'s encouragement and support and advice as I've traveled and journeyed along this road to represent the community at various levels of government. You know, I started off as a young boy in the Cornerstone Baptist Church, and now I'm on my way to the United States Capitol. I have to tell you that we serve a good God. And I'm just going to work as hard as I can to justify the confidence that Reverend Sharpton and you and the community have placed in me. We, of course, are here today to address a very significant issue in our community, the violent epidemic that is ravaging our streets all over the place, from Bedford-Stuyvesant to Brownsville, from central Harlem to central Brooklyn, from the South Bronx to Southeast Queens. Our community is being ravaged. And we've got to ask some questions. How many more people have to die? How many more parents have to bury their children? How many more young people have to be cut down before they have an opportunity to grow up? And one of the reasons why I'm so thankful that Reverend Sharpton is launching this initiative and calling people together from all across the city is because we have to move beyond sound bites and move towards substance. We've got to move beyond promises and move toward programmatic activity. We've got to move beyond rhetoric and start bringing the resources needed into our community to get these problems resolved. Because we're in the midst of a crisis now. I'm not going to tarry before you long. We still want to hear from Reverend Sharpton and others during this important hour. And I've, over the years, become a strict adherent to the B rule of public speaking. Be brief, be bright, and be gone. And so I just want to share a few thoughts, take my seat so we can resume the activity and prepare for the mission. But I just want to share just a few brief observations on what I think needs to be done as we begin to focus the city's attention on this issue. First, I think it's clear that we have to repair and rebuild the black family. Because the black family right now is in crisis. And if we're honest with ourselves, we'll admit that we've got children raising children. And the best defense, the first defense against gun violence has to begin in the home. But if the home is dysfunctional, then the streets are going to be dysfunctional. And so we got to make sure that we repair the damage that has been done to the black family by rededicating ourselves to social and economic justice with the same degree of intensity that was brought to bear by those from the civil rights movement. Because I don't believe, as Reverend Al Sharpton teaches us, that those civil rights heroes marched in the streets so that our children could die in the streets. And so we've got to first rebuild the black family. The second thing I think we've got to make sure we do is we have to invest in education and recreation, not incarceration and criminalization. Because if you look at when youth violence, when gun violence, when the mayhem at the hands of a few young people occur, it takes place during the summer, overwhelmingly, and during the academic year between 3 and 6. That's not just Jeffrey saying it, that's what the criminological statistics say. And so it's obvious that because there's been a dramatic decline in opportunity, because we have walked away from activities, cultural, recreational, summer, after-school programs for our children, because we haven't given them something productive to do, in some cases, destructive behavior will take hold. And what I've never understood is that you can spend an additional $20,000 to fully fund summer and after-school activity. But if you take that same child who gets into trouble, finds themselves incarcerated in a juvenile detention facility, the state spends $200,000. That's what's called fuzzy math. It doesn't make any sense. We've got to invest in education and recreation, not incarceration and criminalization. And the last observation that I'd make as I take my seat is simply that we have to push this city, despite what the media and others may say, to pursue effective crime-fighting techniques. Now, many of us have been critical of the stop and frisk activity of the NYPD because, in part, we recognize that the Constitution of the United States should have meaning. I believe that the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution doesn't stop at the banks of the Hudson River. And it should be colorblind. And we can't simply tolerate the fact that each and every year, hundreds of thousands of innocent, law-abiding New Yorkers are stopped, questioned, frisked, embarrassed, humiliated, illegally searched, and the overwhelming majority have done nothing wrong. But the other reason, equally significant, why we have to push for effective crime-fighting strategies is because there's no empirical evidence that stop and frisk is effective. When 90% of the people who are stopped, questioned, and frisked by your own admission have done nothing wrong. No gun, no weapon, no contraband, no arrest, nothing at all. Then that should tell you that it's ineffective. And no corporation in America would tolerate a 90% error rate. And we shouldn't tolerate it in the city of New York. Because what also happens is that by targeting so many innocent, law-abiding New Yorkers disproportionately in our communities, you poison the relationship between the police and the community. And so you undermine the cooperation that should be taking place to solve the gun violence in the first place. And so we need effective crime-fighting techniques. And so the situation that we face, of course, is a very significant one. The crisis is extremely acute. We should all be alarmed. But I mentioned at the beginning that I was raised in the Cornerstone Baptist Church, and there's a scripture that I often take with me as I walk along this journey. It was repeated to me often by my grandmother. We know that suffering may endure during the long night, but joy, I said joy, will come in the morning. And we're not going to rest in our community until it's morning time. God bless you.
Assemblyman Jeffries, give him a hand. Let me say that as we come out of the convocation on Monday, right here, we're going to lay out a plan. Then I've talked to Mary Pat Hector, our National Youth Move Director. I'm calling in 2 weeks a citywide youth conference. The youth leaders of every church, people that lead youth groups. Nobody old, loud in the building but me. Because we have some ideas that I've talked to Diddy about it and some of the rappers that we're going to do with the young people. So we'll have a youth conference 2 weeks from now that will work on the Occupy from another perspective. We've got to, as Assemblyman Jeffrey said, deal in a holistic approach of bringing the whole family back together on these issues. One of the reasons that we have had such a breakdown is because we are so disconnected in our community. The black professionals and the black intelligentsia don't talk to the black proletariat. The black church folk don't talk to the black professionals. We got to get everybody in the room and say, wait a minute, all of us have got to deal with this issue. One of the reasons I'm working with Jonathan Mason and my sorority brothers, fraternity brothers, and the anti-hazing movement is anytime we become so insensitive to where we accept kids getting beaten. You struggle, you work, send your child to a college, and you act like, well, it's just part of the thing they do to whip they behind. It's just all right. You live, I keep saying this, because I'm trying to wake us up. You live in a community. Talk on the phone. Somebody said, what was that? Oh, that's just gunfire outside. That happens all the time. Like that's normal. I mean, just no big thing. Anytime you live in that kind of environment, you have subjected yourself to a subhuman state. And we've allowed it. This is what she's been trying to bring out here, Reverend Williams and others. We have adjusted to the point where we've made ourselves live in less than what is humanly acceptable. I mean, people will actually tell you, well, don't go on that corner, you'll get robbed. Well, then why ain't we taking that corner and stopping the robbery? Why are we scheduling in and allowing this to exist? So that's why we call everybody together. Because I want to see, and I know right now, some people are going to be mad, well, I ain't in it today in it. Those that cannot sit in a room because of their differences to deal with violence do not deserve to be taken seriously as leaders in our community. I'm going to say that now. If you can't put aside your differences when we burying babies, then we should never hear what you got to say again. Now I know some Negro going to say, well, why Sharpton called a meeting? Because you didn't call it. You could have called a meeting. I'm gone. Most weeks I'm gone longer than I'm here. And you didn't call the meeting. Since you didn't call it, I called it. So you can either show up, don't show up, but shut up, because we're going to deal with this. Hello? This is ridiculous. I said that at Morgan's funeral tonight, I don't know if I was more angry at myself as I was sad that we had not done more before this boy died. And Akeem is right now. This whole, one of the things that I was reading in the papers this morning, they said that stop and frisk went down 34% the last few months. A lot of it is as a result of the protests and the controversy and all of that. Well, then they're going to say, but stop and frisk go down, violence will go up. First of all, violence was continuing under stop and frisk. If anything, these last weeks of violence shows that stop and frisk don't work. Because if stop and frisk work, then why are these boys and babies being killed? So rather than argue about a policy that don't work, let's sit down and come up with real policies that work. You worry about folks do the same thing over and over when it don't work. I come out the funeral tonight, press. Well, now what do you think of stop and frisk? Stop and frisk policy happened and was in force while this boy got shot. The issue is what you think about it. But we must reconvene our community. We must get rid of the poison of our division. We got too many of us that have no program, no plan, And all we do is sit around attacking everybody else. The whole point of their leadership is to attack everybody else. He ain't this, she ain't that, he did this, I think that. Well, what is it that you plan to do? Well, she did so-and-so. Well, what is it you gonna do? Well, I would be leading in the community, but Sharpton's in my way. I ain't in your way, I don't even know who you are. The elected officials, the preachers, everybody but you. If you gonna lead, what you gonna do? Don't be an expert on everybody else and never can tell us what you're going to do. It's time for all of us to put up. Our babies are dying. And I want everybody from Bang Bang Revolutionaries to Certified Hall of Fame Uncle Toms. All of them need to be in the room. Oh yeah, we got some Toms in the Hall of Fame in New York. But let them start tomming on the way to stop this violence. And it amazes me, Kirsten, when we get in these gatherings and people come with this self-righteous. That's why I chose that scripture the other night. They came to Jesus, self-righteous. And you know people like that in the community. Arrogant. They know better than anybody. Never been wrong about nothing. Everything they did was right. And when they were found wrong, it was somebody set it up. Self-righteous. Can't be corrected. Can't ever question themselves. So the self-righteous went to Jesus and said, who is the greatest in the kingdom? He looked past all of them and said, bring unto me a child. The only ones that is innocent and pure are little children. I don't care who you are. If you've grown, you done made a mistake, you done done some wrong, quit lying to yourself. Now don't think because ain't nobody call you out that everybody is fool. They just going along with you deluding yourself. I did this, I did that, I did the other. People understand you got an insecurity. We understand you need a hug, you need a little love. They didn't take you to the ball game enough when you was a kid. We got that. But don't think we fooled by it. All of us have done something. That's why I tell folk, if you messed up, if you done things wrong in life, if you done made mistakes, come here. Nobody else wants you. Come here. Because I believe in a God that takes broken pieces to make new machines work. I ain't looking for no pure saints. I ain't looking for people that ain't never made a mistake. I like folk that been rejected and laughed at, talked about. Because that's the ones God can use. Like I keep talking about, I first come out of a tracksuit and medallion. They laughed at me. That's all right, they ain't laughing now. Right now with that tracksuit on, big, fat, sloppy, long hair. That's all right, there was always a thin, refined man up under that fat. And there's a better you inside of you. If we just get to work, it's going to bring the greatness out of some people. We're going to bring some great leaders out of this struggle. I want everybody to think about you that are home, you that are in your place of business, in your car. Think about the worst thing you ever did. Think about the worst stuff you ever did. And then forgive yourself. Get past that. Because for whatever reason, God lets you go ahead. So quit. If God forgave you, quit holding it against yourself. And then stand up now and do something with the rest of your life. There was a woman the self-righteous crowd got around. They caught her in the act of adultery. They brought her out to stone her. They said the law of Moses said that she should be stoned. They stood her up to kill her for being caught in the act of adultery, act of unfaithfulness, act of breaking commitments. Now, mind you, they didn't bring the man with her. She didn't commit the adultery by herself. But they never did bring up where the man was. Then Jesus came by. They figured they could get 2 for 1. They figured that they would jam him by asking him about the law of Moses. If he said don't do it, he disobeyed the law. If he said to do it, then he was responsible for her death. You know folk like that try to jam you. No matter which way you go, you're wrong. But Jesus didn't do either one. Jesus looked at the woman, and he looked at them, and he said to one of you without sin, cast the first stone. I ain't going to tell you what to do. I just want the one that is pure, the one that never made a mistake, cast the first stone. And the Bible said he took out his stick and started writing in the sand. And when he looked up, they were all gone. And he looked at the woman who'd been condemned to death and said, where are your accusers? She said, I don't see any. He said, well, then neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. I told Kirsten years ago, Hakeem, I never, ever could figure out what happened. But I reread that scripture. And when Jesus was writing in the sand, he was writing down their girlfriends' names. Them folk accused. That's why they all got out of there. My point is that if God don't condemn you, don't let nobody else condemn you. You got stuff you can do. And the reason I'm giving this message this morning is we need some folk that been through the gutter to go with us to the gutter. We need some folk that been down and out to help us go get those down and out. We need some folk with a record to talk to folk with a record. I need those that know gang banging that'll help me talk to the gang bangers. I told you I was at Washington Temple last night at the funeral. I sat there with Bishop Washington's son. I thought about how right there I started when I was a little boy. Started preaching in that church when I was 4 years old. Went on in the 80s and became known with the jogging suit and medallion. But I thought about if I would have been asked as a child where I was going in life. I always knew I was called to preach. I always knew that I was called to do social justice, but I had no idea that I'd see a black president. No idea I'd be sitting up talking to him in the White House. No idea I'd be on TV every night with me and folk watching. No idea. But I did have one idea, that if you put God first, if you let go and let God, He'll make your enemies leave you alone. And I thought about, there were other kids came out of Brooklyn, other kids came out of Washington Temple that were gifted and had talent, and some better educated, and some came from families where father never left. But I thought about, God doesn't like to use people with clean stories too often. He liked to use people that nobody thought could do nothing. He liked to use people with a little dirt on them, with a little grime on them. Because he can't get no glory if you got all the glory yourself. But if you've been knocked down, if you've been dragged through the mud, if you've been knifed in the back by your best friends, if you've been talked about and scandalized and muddied up and dirtied up, God said, that's what I want. Because if I pick them up and clean them off, I can get the glory. Because they'll say nobody but God could have done that. That's why I want to go to the corner to lift him up. I'm not going for no funding. I want to lift him up. If you lift him up, I'll draw all men unto me. You might be scared, close your eyes, but lift him up, because he promised if we hold him up, he'd make a way out of no way. He promised if we stand up, he'd hold us up. He promised he'd prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. He promised he'd make a way out of no way. I'm not a little boy no more. The little boy from Washington Temple that grew up now. But I'm standing on his promises. Mama's gone. Friends are gone. But I'm standing on his promises. He will make a way. Yes, he will. If we connect the family back together, the best of us with the rest of us, if we hook our academicians up with our Erica Fords, if we hook our sister Sekou's up with our elected officials, if these young children can see the family back together, they'll come back home. They'll talk about the prodigal son coming home. The problem is we didn't build a home for them to come to. Where are these kids coming back to when all of us are fussing and fighting and bickering and ego-tripping? It's time to build a home again. So our children got somewhere to come. It's time to build a home again. So there's standards in our community. It's time to build a home again. So there's values in our community. It's time to come back to what brought us this far. We come from slavery, through Reconstruction, through segregation, through castigation. We didn't come this far to commit suicide now. It's time for us to dig back in and get the garbage out of him. Get the Mary McLeod buffoon out. Get our excellence back up. We can, we shall, we must regain our community. Stand up, black man. Stand up, black woman. This is your day. This is your time. Reclaim your children. Take back your community. Occupy your corner. Occupy your corner. Occupy your corner. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Singing like the leader. Singing like the leader. We want justice. Got to have justice. We want justice. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Yeah. I'm gonna open the doors of the movement. There may be somebody here today listens to us on the radio, comes to our events, our marches, but never joined the organization. If you're here this morning and never became a member of National Action Network, I want you to come down either aisle. You may not even have the membership dues, but come down and shake my hand and become a member this morning of the National Action Network. Come on, everybody sing. Everybody sing. Everybody singing. Everybody now, all right. Everybody. Everybody singing. Yeah, singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. One more time, y'all. One more time, y'all. One more time, y'all. Yeah. Everybody sing. Everybody sing. Everybody sing. Yeah. One last time, y'all. One last time, y'all. One last time, y'all. Yeah. All right. All right. We're going to raise our offering, moving quickly.